Something I want to establish before we get into this is that I do count both the Nintendo World Championships and the Smash Bros. Mini Show as part of Nintendo's presence at E3 this year, okay? Along with the digital event, I'm clumping them all together in one big analysis of everything they did at this year's show, okay? And I'm going to go over each of the two things before the main conference very, very briefly before we get into that itself, starting with the Nintendo World Championships. God, this was a fun show to watch. That was a really cool tournament. I did not expect guys like Aaron, Egoraptor, as a lot of you may know him more commonly as, there. I was kind of rooting for him too, believe it or not. I'm surprised he survived as long as he did, but that's going off on a tangent. A couple highlights of the show. They showed off Blast Ball, which we didn't even know existed. That was kind of cool. A lot of people are thinking, is this an indie game? Where does this fit? Like, where are we going to get this and how? It's kind of interesting that Nintendo's developing this, what seems to be a multiplayer-only, online-only type experience. And we'll talk more in detail about that, but yeah, they had that. And of course, Andre was there too, which was another great move on their part. He was pretty much the audience surrogate in a lot of cases. He was cracking all of the jokes we wanted to make, although I think the one thing they didn't do that I was hoping was going to happen the whole time is for the final game, they would have gotten the guy from the Wizard to come up and yell, "Super Mario Brothers 3!" That would have made it perfect. Although, Super Mario Maker just, in a way, showing that off, even more so than the digital event, actually watching somebody play through those levels and try to conquer them, see what kind of crazy challenges the devs themselves came up with in these levels. That was a lot better way of selling that game than just talking about it in general, at least for a general audience. For me, the digital event actually did it better, but we'll talk about it when we get there. That whole tournament was just great. The fact that, number one, the fact that they were doing it in the first place is a huge gesture of good faith towards everybody. They could not have timed it better because that's the time of year where everybody in the gaming industry is paying attention to the goings-on anyway. And the fact that it was kind of a marketing vehicle, but then again, they always have been, because they're always showing off their new games, and I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that at all, because it's kind of a celebration of everything Nintendo. I'm happy in that sense that they brought guys like Egoraptor and Andre from Black Nerd Comedy all together, because it's a celebration of the community. It's to give people a chance to stand up on that stage, win an award, shake the hand of Mr. Miyamoto himself. It's a chance for everybody to tune in and just remind themselves why they love Nintendo games in the first place. And that was just day one. Now let's talk about Smash Bros. For a second. Actually, did the Smash Bros. Event happen before or after the Nintendo World Championships? I don't remember. It's not important. Both of them were worth watching because Smash Bros. Event, we got Roy, Lucas, and Ryu, plus Dreamland, ton of new Mii Fighter costumes. Some of them are representative characters a lot of people have been asking for so far. Ryu in particular. Now, I understand Smash Bros. Enough. This isn't like a Street Fighter 4 or 5 situation where I don't understand the difference. I know enough about Smash to be able to tell why this character and why he functions is very interesting and very important, because he plays so differently from everyone else. They had to figure out how to transfer a fighting game character who had a totally different setup into this game, and what do you know, it looks really cool. He seems to be this really technical character with all of these really interesting options. He's got a shield breaker move. He's got moves where if you put in the classic input, he'll actually make them stronger. His Shoryuken will actually have a Luigi's uppercut effect, where it's not quite a one-hit KO, but it does a hell of a lot of damage. Tamatsubuken, he's got the Hadouken, and he's got 2 final smashes, which is interesting because that's reminiscent of the Ultra system, where you could choose between 2 super moves. I'm really excited for this character, because Sakurai has actually gone on record to say that he wasn't interested in bringing characters from other fighting games into Smash because he thought it was kind of lame. Lo and behold, he found a way to make it work. As he always does, he finds a way to make a character who seems like they would have no place in Smash actually work perfectly. And this is why I'm so excited that this game keeps getting support. They might not even need to make a new Smash Brothers in the future. They might not, because they can just keep supporting this game with more and more characters, more and more stages, more and more, just more of everything. But enough about the side stuff. Let's actually get to the digital event itself. And for those of you who understand the history behind Star Fox, which they explained a little bit, but I want to go into more detail so this all makes sense. Star Fox, the way it looked, the way the original box art featured characters in puppet form, and why when they're talking in Star Fox 64, it's just either mouth open or mouth closed. It looks like puppets talking. That's because Miyamoto was actually inspired as a kid by shows like Thunderbirds, which was a puppet show. So that's where all that was coming from. That's why they had the developers in puppet form and slowly turning into the Star Fox crew, because it kind of all brings it full circle. But holy cow, Star Fox itself, I think I'm on record in some place. Okay, if Mario Kart is my favorite Nintendo franchise, Star Fox is a very, very close second. It's like a gnat's wing. I, like most people, have been waiting for this game for a long, long time. I've been waiting for... Hell, I even loved Assault in a lot of ways. I didn't mind the on-foot missions. I didn't mind going off and deviating from the thing. I didn't mind the fact that Crystal was a part of the team now and it had more of a story than the other games did, because it's still a fun game. I love the franchise that much, and Star Fox Zero is looking like it's even more of that. They've got new vehicles, they've got... And this is something a lot of people might not be gravitating to if they haven't played Splatoon yet, is the idea of they're finally taking full advantage of the whole dual screen mechanic, where you're seeing one thing on the big screen, but you're seeing something totally different on the gamepad. The reason it works in Splatoon is because it answers the idea of mouse-like precision in a shooter. A lot of people just won't play shooters on a console because they can't deal with the analog stick. They feel like it's not as precise as they need it to be. And because now it's using the gyro controls, you can aim as little or as much as you want in any direction you wish at any time. It feels a lot more intuitive. And it's the same sort of deal with Star Fox. It seems to be what they're going for, is it's a shooter game, so you're going to want that level of precision. You're going to want to be able to aim where you want, when you need to. And because a lot more of the game is about free roaming around, they needed to answer that question of how do we keep that level of precision if the whole game isn't on rails anymore, just some of it? Well, let people control it themselves. Create a whole new control scheme. Introduce a whole bunch of elements from like the cancel games like Star Fox 2, where your R-Wing can turn into a walker, where your tank can start hovering indefinitely, where your hover wing, I think it was called, can actually deploy a little robot that can go into these areas, collect coins, maybe do some sabotage in areas that you couldn't reach normally. I don't think there's anything else I could have asked for from this game. It's looking like Nintendo is doing what Nintendo does best, which is taking a great formula that they had before and innovating on it. And that's a theme we're going to have to touch on a lot in this conference. And after seeing the reaction to the conference on YouTube, it's something I feel like I have to address quite a lot. And I'm sorry guys, but provide a counter-argument for. You know what I respect the hell out of Nintendo for? The fact that they did announce ahead of time that Zelda U just wasn't ready to be shown off at this year's E3, but in its place, we got 2 different Zelda games, and if it weren't for the leak, we wouldn't have known about either of them ahead of time. Yeah, unfortunately Hyrule Warriors 3DS was spoiled. We did know about Tetra, we did know about the King of Red Lions, also known as King Harunaikon, because I'm never gonna let the CDI games go. And yeah, and this game is coming with all the DLC, it's coming with all the characters, and now you can take it with you on the go. What more could you possibly ask for? And then we got the idea of Triforce Heroes, which... This is something Miyamoto has actually talked about for a long time. Like, Link to the Past, a lot of people don't know this. his original idea was that Link would have a party of characters following him around, that they'd each have unique abilities and unique things they could do within the dungeons. He was inspired by games like Dragon Warrior, where you had this group of adventurers who had a dynamic with one another, and it looks like they're realizing that now. It's a Nintendo game with, I think they confirmed that yes, it is online multiplayer. You can play this with locally or with just anybody anywhere, which, good on you. Thank you for embracing online multiplayer. Thank you for doing this in more mainstream games, more games that actually have your important characters in them and committing to it too. It's also got this interesting setting of how each character, number one, you have to work together to get through the dungeons, which I think is a given considering you have more than one person. It'd be kind of detrimental if you didn't take advantage of that at all. But it's also got the element of how now each Link can wear a different costume, and that costume will have special abilities, which they're kind of bringing... A lot of people were pointing this out, they were scratching their heads about this, but I get the joke. It's that whole "my name is not Shazam" situation where way back in the day, everybody thought the main character of the game was called Zelda, when it turns out he was actually named Link, because even back then nobody liked to actually read the strategy guide that came with the game. But now... he's in that situation, like, he can wear her dress now, and he's like, great, as if I didn't have enough people still calling me Zelda. It's looking fun. It really is. I'm glad that even though we didn't get the game everybody was hoping for, we did get something else to complement it. I'm glad that this franchise is so big that it can support so many different things, and Nintendo is still keeping in contact with Tecmo Koei and talking to them about making things like this, like taking this already great idea and bringing it to something portable, taking other side concepts that work so well on the handheld games to begin with and continuing that legacy of something like the Oracle games or A Link Between Worlds. So yeah, all things considered, Legend of Zelda, I was also impressed. But now we come to our first real contention point of this year's show, a game people got pissed about. Metroid Federation Force. And also Metroid Prime Blast Ball as well. I think that's what its name was. If it's not, I'm going to put it down at the bottom of the screen like I've been doing with the rest of the videos. But they announced that ahead of time, and we didn't know that was part of a Metroid Prime game. If they had announced it then, if they had told us, it would have seemed weird. It's like, this is the Metroid game you're giving us? But now that I know it's part of something that's bigger and better, I don't mind it so much. It's just a really cool extra, something I can enjoy as well when I buy the thing I was actually looking for. And yes, I realize this statement isn't going to earn me any friends right now, but yes, I do believe Metroid Prime Federation Force is something bigger and better, and it is something exactly like what I've been looking for. Okay, I've explained this in some of the other videos. I don't care about following the same story of the same character. I mean, it's nice to have a recognizable face, but to me, Metroid Prime always worked because of the setting. It's because the worlds are so alien, for lack of a better term. The settings have this awesome ambience to them. The ice areas feel cold. The marshlands feel wet and damp and humid. The underwater areas also feel very, for lack of a better term, they're also very cool, very chill, very methodical and thought out. Every single setting in Metroid Prime is great, and the combat too. That's one of the things I gravitate towards the most, is the shooting. They've deviated from the other M-style system and brought it back to the first-person shooting that we were all asking for. The gameplay's still there, the setting is still there, and I'm sorry guys, but I do not care if I get to play as Samus again. Because here's the way I view it. Does the game still play exactly the same as I remember? Yes, except now I get to enjoy it with 3 other people. Awesome, that makes it even better. I'm sorry guys, you know what, I'm not sorry. I'm not going to apologize for taking an interest in something that seems interesting to me, and I don't see a problem with this whatsoever. Then we got Fire Emblem Fates and not Fire Emblem, as I'm going to refer to it as. Man, I love Atlas. Persona is one of my favorite series of RPGs out there right now, but what the hell happened with that game? This has not only deviated so far away from... Like, how do you even begin to... Like, I don't know how I would have mixed Persona and Fire Emblem and had it make sense, but I wouldn't have done this. It doesn't even have the feeling that a Persona or Shin Megami Tensei game would. Gone is the dark setting. Gone is the tone of, not post-apocalyptic, if you will, but a sort of world that's bearing down on you a little bit. And Fire Emblem is not a stranger to dire situations, to themes of danger, to themes of the world being anything but a sugary sweet pop electronic. By the way, I want you to go back and watch that trailer again and see the credits for the musical performance in the corner. It's performed by Tiki. Because of course it is. I don't know. It's sort of the opposite situation of Cuphead, where every time I see that game, the less excited I am for it. I don't know what the hell happened. You guys are better than this. You know better than this. You know how to take an anime aesthetic and actually make it cool. And how to actually make it keep away from the stuff that people usually gravitate away from anime because of. Okay, you know how to use that style to your advantage, so why aren't you doing it? Not going to linger on that, though. I'm going to talk about the Fire Emblem game that's actually worth being excited about. Fire Emblem Fates. We now have its official English name, as well as an official English performance of the song as well. English voice cast. Things are finally getting through the localization process, which I'm happy for. Game still looks good. It's still got all of those elements of... And I've seen that Japanese trailer as well, where it's talking about my castle, it's talking about more details on the game, and... Well, what else can I say? It's like Fire Emblem Awakening, just without children. It's still got the relationship system, it's still got the very deep combat that everybody's loving about the franchise, but now you've got that choice system in place. Like, which side are you on? What type of game do you want to play? Which, yeah, I want to make that choice. I want to be there when that happens. I want to see what they're going to do with that. And I don't want it to be arbitrary either. I want to see if it's not going to be arbitrary, which I trust them not to make it. They showed off a little more of Xenoblade Chronicles X because, of course they would. I mean, what else is there to say about this game by now? They did an hour-long showing of all the mechanics, of all the themes that are going to go on, all the different characters. There's nothing left to say, there's nothing left to analyze. I'm looking forward to this game, and so are you. Let's talk about the games we don't know as much about, though. The two Animal Crossing titles, that one of which we had heard about before, and one of which is brand new. Happy Home Designer, the initial showing of this game, I was not really excited for, because it sort of seems like an Animal Crossing game without everything that made Animal Crossing engaging, which was the interaction between the villagers, the building up your own home, building up your own collection of things, just living a life in this place with these really pleasant people. But now that I see a little bit of an extended concept of it, I see more of what you'll actually be doing in this world, how you can mix and match the people that show up. It's sort of like Animal Crossing boiled down to its basest elements. You don't have to do any of the running around, you don't have to save up for any of the furniture. You can interact with these people on a more personal level, if you will. You're helping them out with something in their life. You still have that element of you know them and you're building a bit of a relationship with them. It's just on a more retail level, I guess it would be. They're allowing you into their house and they're letting you shape their lives in a way. In some minuscule way, if you will. I don't know, for that exact reason, I'm I'm warming up to it, I should say. I'm still not sure if I'm going to go out of my way to buy those cards so I can collect every single villager, because I've sworn off Amiibo pretty much forever in my life. I don't know if I'm going to bend my will to the cards either, but we'll see. We'll see as time goes on. We'll see when this thing comes out. Another point of controversy. Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival. I've actually seen one douchebag say that Nintendo's kind of like a monkey's paw. When you wish for something, aka Animal Crossing on the Wii U, you gotta be really specific about it. Man, screw you, dude. This game, there's a fallacy I think a lot of people have. There's this really stupid, awful mindset that some gamers have. Like, let me use this as an example. If you got me off of working on Spaceshift right now, it doesn't mean I'd start creating Miku's Lullaby. It's the same sort of deal. Like, if they weren't working on Animal Crossing Amiibo Party, it's not gonna make Animal Crossing Wii U suddenly magically happen. Okay, that's not how creative minds work. You can't rush art. You can't force somebody to make the specific thing you're looking for. You gotta wait till talent meets technology and create something groundbreaking. Otherwise, it's just gonna feel forced. It's just gonna feel like it's not gonna be the game you're looking for. This is how things like Other M happen, okay? You're not gonna... And does it hurt you at all? No. For that exact reason, this game's existence does not take anything away from you. For the people who still like Amiibo, like I said, I'm not one of them, but for those of you who are actually going to throw yourselves to the wolves and attempt to get an Isabelle Amiibo or a KK Slider Amiibo, yeah, those are gonna disappear almost immediately, I guarantee you. You're gonna enjoy this, okay? Have fun with it. I'm not gonna take away from that for you. I've just decided I'm not gonna be a part of the collection anymore. Still, I'm not gonna take it away from the people who actually still enjoy that. Then we got a devlog on Yoshi's Woolly World, and speaking of Amiibo, you do realize all of the ones on that table are the world's supply, right? Just throwing that out there. But this is one of the coolest things I thought was at this year's show, is the idea of inspiration, the things behind the games they make. I mean, like I said, I'm a creative soul myself. I'm getting into game design right now, so to hear some of these guys just explain where these ideas came from, why they did things the way they did, and how they designed these games based around these specific ideas, that's really cool. Like, I eat that kind of thing up, and we're gonna get to the best example of that here in a little bit, but this story in particular, how she said, I wanted to do something for the team, but I can't contribute to development directly, so what can I do? Well, I'm really good at knitting, I'll go home and make this yarn Yoshi, and everyone looks at it, they're really happy about it, and they go, there's an idea in this, there's something I can do. And they start coming up with the game and the idea for the Amiibos and how they can sell them to people, how they aren't just the same plastic figures they've gotten before. This is the type of thing where inspiration comes from, and it goes back to what I was talking about with the Nintendo World Championships, is this felt like, in a lot of ways, a celebration of what makes Nintendo, of what makes these games so much fun to begin with. And again, we're going to get a lot more into that here in a little bit. I think it has a lot to do with Mario's 30th anniversary coming up here in a little bit, or I don't know, it's already happened, I guess. But yeah, it was really nice to see those kinds of things. It made the show so much more fun, at least for me anyway. By the way, I want to give a brief shout out to Yokai Watch. Number one, I'm glad Pokemon's finally getting some much needed competition. Number two, I'm just glad this game is coming to America. We could use more of these types of things that are really steeped in Japanese mythology, that have all of these weird creatures that are so far out of our frame of reference that we have no idea where to even begin or end with them. And then we can control them and use them to fight other ones, so... Looking forward to that when it comes out. One of the biggest surprises that I got out of Nintendo's show this year was Mario and Luigi Paper Jam. I've played pretty much every Mario RPG, starting with Paper Mario because I never got my hands on Legend of the Seven Stars, unfortunately. I played that one years later on the Virtual Console, but other than that, the fact that they're fans of the 3D, the traditional Mario RPGs. There are fans of the Paper Mario RPGs. We've tried innovating on both sides. Let's bring them together and see how they can interact. And we're seeing a whole lot of ways they can interact, how it enhances the action commands we're used to in the traditional Mario RPGs, but we've also got the ideas of like the paper crafting, and we've got all of these weird, cool looking attacks where you can flatten out an enemy and then send them flying, or turn into a paper airplane and hover over something. You can sneak in through small crevices. You've got all these cool traversal powers, these that are only capable because of that aesthetic. And now we're seeing what happens when these two worlds come together, and I could not be happier. Could not be happier with that game. I want to see more. I want to play it as soon as possible. Please give me a demo like you did with Dream Team. Mario Tennis Ultra Smash is also happening, and I mean, come on, it's Camelot. They've done pretty much all of the Mario sports games at this point, and every single time they do one of the Mario sports games, it's incredible. It's tight, it controls well, they're bringing back the idea of the power-ups. It's another one of those things where you're either going to love it or you're going to have absolutely no interest in it. I grew up with this kind of thing, so I'm going to love this. Whether or not I'm going to have the money to buy it amongst everything else that's happening this year, we'll see about that one, but I'm going to try. And last but not least, we had Super Mario Maker, which this is the point where I've really got to hammer in why I think the Nintendo show was one of the most fun ones to watch this year, why I think it was one of the most interesting shows. You gotta understand something. Shigeru Miyamoto is not just a video game developer. He is the video game developer. He's the guy who made Mario, Link, he made F-Zero, Star Fox, pretty much name a franchise, he did it. Okay, Donkey Kong even, which pretty much saved not only Nintendo, but when he brought Super Mario Bros. To the console, they pretty much turned around the entire industry. This guy is the cool uncle of this entire video game market. Anytime he shows up anywhere, it means something. But the guy's always been an enigma. He's always been this type of person where nobody ever really talks to him about, like, how do you make games? How do you design them? What do you think? Where do you go from here? To see him sit down with the original concept sketches for Super Mario Brothers. And I realize this is only exciting to me because I'm a developer, because I love game development. I want to create things of my own someday, but to see him look over these original drawings, which we had never even seen before, explain how he had to communicate changes in level design or concepts to the programmers, how they came up with the idea of the overlay paper, and even explaining why he designed the stages the way he did, to teach the player without a single text-based tutorial, to let them know how to play the game the way he intended them to play it, without saying a single thing, with the limited resources they had back in the day. It shows this guy, even back in the beginning, he understood something about video games. He understood how to make them fun before anyone else did. That he realized what good game design theory was far before there was anything even resembling a book on the subject. That was one of the coolest moments, not just of the Nintendo presser, but of the entire show this year. Just to, I don't know, sit down with one of pretty much the guy who is our rock star and just shoot the shit for a little while. To hear him say that he's working on Mario Maker, he hopes we pick it up, so maybe we can share in some of the joy he felt back when he was creating these games, and the fact that he's been creating them for over 30 years now, 3 decades. That's what really hit home with the Nintendo conference to me, and I've said it 2 times now already, but I'll say it again. It's about Nintendo created this show in such a way as to hit a point of, I can't even strive for the word, it's a feeling, not nostalgia, it's more than that. It's about why these games matter, it's about why we love them so much, it's about why we find them appealing. I mean, We don't love Metroid because of Samus. We love Metroid because of the setting. We love it because of the run-and-gun gameplay that makes it so fun to begin with. And the fact that it comes with an extra thing that we saw people play the first time at this gigantic tournament. It just makes it even better. We don't love Yoshi because he runs around and he throws eggs. It's because it makes sense. The fact that that game was so colorful, it had such great music, it had such a lighthearted aesthetic to begin with, it matched with the crayon drawings, and it also matches with the yarn, and they're finding a way to have that make sense. Like, he doesn't eat an enemy and turn them into eggs, he unravels them and wraps them back up in a yarn ball. We don't love... I guess we do love Mario because it's a platformer, but now we can really start to break down into why those games are fun, not just on a level of playing them, but also on a level of feeling like maybe we're a part of Nintendo too. Feeling like we are, to understand what it was like working on these kinds of games. I know I'm sounding really sappy and off the wall here, and this is probably not hitting home for anybody, it's not changing anybody's minds, but that's the other thing about this year. That is the other argument I've seen, is that everybody's saying nothing's coming out from Nintendo that matters. Dude, are you only choosing to see the Amiibo stuff? Because I'm noticing a fairly sizable list of bullet points. Star Fox Zero, Zelda U, just because they didn't talk about it doesn't mean it isn't happening. Another game they didn't talk about that you probably forgot about was the Fatal Frame game that's coming to Wii U. Yoshi's Woolly World, Triforce Heroes, Hyrule Warriors for the 3DS, just to name what I can think of off the top of my head, okay? And now I compare that to any other list from any of the other companies that came out this year, and not only does it match up with, or even eclipse some of them in some cases, but every single one of them is exclusive to a Nintendo platform, which even Sony couldn't claim, because remember, Call of Duty is also coming out on Xbox as well. Man, I don't know what y'all are talking about, but I'm seeing plenty of stuff to be excited for from this company. And the fact that the show itself was entertaining to watch for the simple fact that they understand their audience and they know what they're looking for, I had no problems with this. I still wouldn't rank it above... Or would I? Not Sony, mind you. Sony won, no problem. They couldn't even come close, but I think Nintendo actually beat Bethesda. I'm not gonna lie, I think they did, by just a little bit. Because they hit that mark. It felt like it came from a place of heart. Like, this is just the developers sharing their love with us. They're explaining why they do this in the first place, and maybe trying to give us some of that, share a little bit of that. That's why I didn't have any problems with things like Let'sSuperMario.com. That's why I didn't have any problems with the developer's story, because it felt real. Despite the fact that Nintendo is one of the biggest companies out there, no matter how much time goes by, it feels earnest. It feels like it comes from a place of genuine heart. And that's why I can't bring myself to hate this conference. And I really hope you can't bring yourself to hate it either.